on 531 PI.
It's 29 minutes past 7 o'clock. You're listening to Pacific Mornings on 531 PI. I'm William Terite. It's great to have your company this Tuesday. Now, she made history as Wellington's first Māori mayor, and now Tory Whanau is back in the race for a second term, this time with the Green Party firmly behind her. After an at times turbulent first term, Whanau even considered stepping away from the capital's top job. But after a spate of wins, including massive investment in the city's water infrastructure and expanding Pōneke's cycleway network, Faro is ready to go another round. She joins me this morning. Thank you so much for your time.
Lena, thank you for having me.
The most obvious question that comes to mind, why on earth do you want to go for a second term?
Yes, and that's a very fair question. And like I did have a very tough first term, and on reflection, I think, in hindsight, perhaps I should have done a first term as a councillor to really learn the ropes of local government, becoming a public figure and so forth. However, I got that experience regardless. So the first 2 years of my term was a huge learning curve, navigating local government. But this year, it really feels like we're turning a corner, that my mayoralty has turned a corner, and we're starting to see those wins that I campaigned on. So enabling tens of thousands of homes through the district plan, expanding our cycleway network, and of course, record investment in water infrastructure. So look, once I started seeing delivery, it gave me my enthusiasm back and thought I just have to keep fighting for this progress, and that needs another term. It's a 10-year plan, and so I am committed to it, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, look, let's just perhaps look back at the first term so far in the sense of you were under intense scrutiny, both personal life and also at central government level. In retrospect, do you feel as though it was fair, particularly the central government perspective?
I don't, to be honest. And when I joined local government, the political landscape had become quite turbulent. I mean, we saw Jacinda Ardern stand down, and we've seen reports just in the last week about the online violence towards women and the online abuse. So there's research now that proves that actually it's at an all-time high. And that was something I was experiencing my first couple of years. And with central government, all councils have these challenges with a sluggish economy, and struggling with their rates to pay for decades of underinvestment. The government has chosen to target Wellington City, and I genuinely believe it's because we're a green city. When you look at how we voted in the last general election, the Green Party's right on top there. So, but hey, I can take the hits from central government because I know that our people actually like it when I stand up for them.
Mm. I think one of the beauties of Wellington is it is a remarkably progressive city. It's bucking the trend compared to, say, other cities and other, well, political trends globally. Are you confident that it will perhaps continue at local government level?
I do, and I think we saw that through the city electing me with that massive margin. It'll be more difficult this time round because the public challenges and so forth. And so I'm spending the next few months really reassuring Wellingtonians that I still have their back. I'm still committed to everything I campaigned on. In fact, we're everything I campaigned on, except for light rail, is well in train, but we've got to stay the course to really transform our city. We're a city in transition, and sometimes that can be quite difficult as the city landscape changes. But in a matter of even 3 years, our city's going to look different. We'll have a new Golden Mile, we'll have a new Civic Square, and then we'll get to work on Cuba Street. And it's actually really, really exciting. So I also need to do my job in really communicating that vision over the next few months.
Yeah, and in terms of communicating that vision, one of the gripes I have, perhaps not just with media coverage, but just the sentiment at the moment, is just really bagging Wellington. I love Wellington. It is a beautiful, vibrant city. I mean, how can we improve that messaging so that we can get rid of that kind of sentiment that seems to be out there?
Super frustrating. And I don't know if you attended Cuba Duper. Did you go to that? Oh,
Loved
it
it.
was like the best weekend. And what I saw was the community being everything that's great about Wellington. It was, there were approximately 70,000 people. People were happy. They were enjoying art, music. And of course, it was pedestrianised. It was Wellington at its best. And to me, the vibe was we are done with the negativity. Yes, tough times, cost of living crisis, all that, but there is so much that's great about Wellington. So I'm becoming less focused on, mainstream media channels like the Post, and focusing on channels like this, like with yourself, who are more interested in putting up fact-based stories as opposed to this gaslighting and negativity that's been driven from some of the main players.
Yeah. With all that in mind, I mean, what's the current mood around the council table? And this is an issue long before your time as mayor. I mean, there are some troublemakers on that table.
Yeah, and it's become quite ingrained when you look at the observers' reports. It's been like 10 years in the making of just this mistrust between some, and I'm talking like four councillors and executive leadership team and around the table. It's tough going. They're a tough crowd, but also not dissimilar to other councils. There's always a couple, but ours, of course, because the central government and the media were under the spotlight. We're working our way through it, and I think it'll open the conversation into local government legislation and what can be done to empower, say, the mayor to really crack down hard on bad behaviour. Currently, there are no tools to do that, and we really ought to have a zero tolerance view when it comes to undermining, leaking. I've heard accusations of bullying. It's just not acceptable in our democratic environment.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. Look, with all of that in mind, how would you keep on top of that, say, if you are lucky to be re-elected in October?
Yes, well, the light at the end of the tunnel is we have a brand new CE who's come from London, who's managed massive councils, and we're already having those conversations around how can we improve governance in the next term, whether I'm elected or not. So we're developing a bit of a plan. One is it's ensuring that every elected member has governance training immediately. It's that team building in the first week. It's being we're going to put all of our councillors through, there's that kind of circle test about where they sit on the personality and skill matrix and start to give them roles to keep them focused. And we're looking at the code of conduct, so it's less intense, and that, if a councillor breaks the code of conduct, they get a role taken off them. You can't do that currently very easily, but we hope to take that into the next term. So yeah, I have hope that it'll be better. It'll take some time to unravel that culture, but we can certainly try.
There are certainly some on that table that need to yeah, anyway. Before we before we crack into I just want to get a sense of what are you campaigning for this time round, or is it more a continuation?
Continuation. So I'm campaigning on, continuity. We're halfway through some of our biggest transformational projects, and what we will end up with is quite an even more spectacular city. So continuing investment in our water infrastructure and public transport. I just heard my dog having a bit of a bark, so excuse that. And finishing transformational projects like the Civic Square, Town Hall, and Library. The library will open within the next year, and of course the Golden Mile. And what we will have is a really livable, affordable city that people actually want to be around, and it will improve our local economy. So I'm about staying the course and keeping up investment, even when it gets really hard.
What's the plan with the Fale Malae project? I mean, there's been a lot of excitement among our Pacific community. Is that stalled, perhaps from council perspective, in terms of funding?
Yeah, so when the long-term plan amendment had to go through last year, when we had to remove the airport from the long-term plan, we had to make approximately $300 million of cuts to our capital program. And the Fale Malae project was considered as part of that. So everything was essentially put on hold. However, we've agreed to still include it in consultation and to retain a $5 million contribution from council to the project. It was a little less than what we'd previously worked with, but it's still on the plan. So now we're just going through resource consent, and once that's done, we can kind of start to get to building.
Okay. Okay. Good to get an update on that. In terms of, I just want to quickly reflect on the people that you're up against. The confirmed candidates so far, you've got Ray Chung, Wellington Lives, Graham Bloxham. You must be feeling quietly confident.
Yeah, I mean, I am, and I'm all for having a range of candidates who bring different skills because it's good for democracy. And we're hearing that the Labour Party might put forward Andrew Little, and look, that is all good, kei te pai, because people should have a choice. However, I still do think. I'll never criticise my fellow candidates because, that's just not my style. But I still think I am the best candidate. I'm not making false promises. You'll get candidates saying, I'm going to cut rates. That's impossible. We have $1.8 billion of investment we have to put in the pipes or they'll explode. So I would just remind our people, for those who are promising 0% rates increase, grain of salt, because we've already tried to find all the hundreds of millions of dollars of savings. We've already done that. We are stretched.
I think where I'm coming from in the sense of the confirmed candidates, this is my take, not yours. I think, your chances are looking good. But Andrew Little, and there's also been suggestion of Nick Mills. I know how much you like Nick. I mean, how do you feel about those two in particular?
I think I wouldn't be worried about Nick Mills because he'd probably have a more conservative program. He wants to remove our $500 million investment in social housing. That's off the table for me. We have to retain our investment in housing so people can get into homes. It'll be hard with Andrew Little because he has a record. He's very well known. He's quite beloved by the party. So look, it'll be hard, but I hope that him and I can work together on a really constructive election campaign. I'll be pushing myself to win. But look, if I did lose, which I don't want to, if it was to Andrew, that wouldn't be the end of the world.
Okay, final question, and this is very premature to be talking about such things, but have you considered what would be next for you should you not be successful?
Not really, to be honest. I'm pretty focused on the Mayoralty, but if I lost, I'd need a break from politics, probably head overseas for a couple of years before coming back and maybe head to Parliament.
Yeah, good on you. Well, as a person who loves Wellington deeply, I'm all for the best candidate in the job. So thank you very much for your time this morning. I really appreciate it. That is Wellington Mayor Tory Whanau. You have a good rest of your day. After the break, we'll